good morning and welcome to Argate TV. Welcome to the Thursday edition of Newspaper Headlines Review. My name is Benjamin Gutav and welcoming you to this program. I have, as usual, my panelists of this program today. And let me start from my right, Nathaniel Nongo. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Gutav. Good to be here always.
Okay, and I have at my right, left, I have Emmanuel Chavia.
Which is it? Is it right or left?
Left.
Okay, all right.
Left on my side.
Okay.
Right from the viewer's perspective.
After a newspaper is about perspectives of the various opinions.
And we from the parliament.
Okay, that's fine. And just to know that interesting stories coming from security, economy, education and all. But Benue is in the news in terms of security. Although there are other things, but security is to the rocket. So we begin first with our newspaper, but we'll go to our website, Argate, www.argateradiotv.com, where we have some interesting stories to pick from. That is where we'll begin our newspaper headlines review today. And the striking story there, it's nothing but violent protest erupts in Ukum, a local government, as Governor Alia imposes 24-hour curfew. That's a story that is indeed very interesting there. If you can grab of ones, violent protests. Yesterday we heard that there was protests in Ukum local government. We started at about 6 a.m. and everything lasted up for many hours, and it didn't give us the best of the picture, the image that we have in the state. So this is where it is. Houses destroyed. Yesterday I saw where somebody listed a number of things that were destroyed in Ukum local government. Quite very pathetic. But let me get your own feel of the things. What do you make of the Ukum unrest, one would say? Nongo.
Well, Ngutsav, it's cause to worry the level, the dimension of insecurity situation in that axis of our state, in that part of Benue. The dimension, the whole situation is going. Remember, that is a popular Sankara axis. What is happening there is not unfamiliar with most of Benue people. It has been branded as a kind of banditry, armed banditry attacks that have been going on for some time now in that part of our state. The immediate past administration did all it could to tackle that menace, to degrade the activities of armed banditry, armed bandits operating in that part of our state. And the present administration has also come and is continuing to also grapple with the same challenge. And what emerged yesterday is one recent episode that paints a very sorry picture of the security situation, because for a situation that has led to the state government imposing a 24-hour curfew. And by the way, based on the images and footages we saw on social media, we saw properties going up in flames, quite a number. It was quite a massive destruction. And from the reports and what the headlines suggest, it was as a result of violent protests due to killings in a certain part of Ukum local government called Ayati. I understand the residents were protesting that the killings have been going on, armed banditry attacks have been going on, and the security seem not to be forthcoming, and government has also been slow in its approach. So what started as a peaceful protest will later snowball into a violent protest that erupted in that part of the state, and people are caught panicking, because as we speak this morning, based on information in public domain, as this morning the Benue State Police Command released an official statement indicating that there was indeed violence in that part of the state, and as according to the statement, 18 persons have so far been arrested. The statement also pointed out that properties, both government and personal properties, were destroyed. And based on the footages we saw, the reports also suggest that the local government secretariat, that's the headquarters in Sankara, was torched, and several facilities. So we have a challenge. The crisis is brewing in that part of our state. The security needs to be more proactive and decisive. And the state government will have to get all the actors, all the stakeholders, because the stakeholders are very critical to solving this challenge that has been going on, because it has been branded as something that is familiar and is going on, but the stakeholders need to come to table. The political stakeholders, religious stakeholders. Sankara, Ukum is that axis of our state, contribute very significantly to our agricultural endowment. The tons of yams, the lorries and trucks of yams and all kinds of farm produce coming out from that axis. If this challenge is not tackled, it is threatening food security already. So it's quite a sorry situation, but based on what the statement should go with tackling this challenge, quite a sorry situation would serve.
Yes, Charia, look at this. What he said, it's not far from it. From what I got here, quite a lot of things that were destroyed yesterday. I'm trying to lay my hands on them so that I can bring that to, but I kept it somewhere to tell you the things that were about more than 18 items. BIRS office in Zakibiam was destroyed. Government Technical School Zakibiam was destroyed. Ukum Area Traditional Council, they were reportedly destroyed. Divisional Agric Office, Ukum Local Government Secretariat, Legislative House, Chairman's Office, Official Residence, Local Government Guest House, Health Department, INEC, go on and on.
This is sending a specific message. I am not trying to say that the one specific message that this violence is trying to send. I guess the residents of Ayayati community are seeming to say with this action that they need more from government. Because if you see the things destroyed, they are government properties, public property. And it is sort of a subliminal message to say, our dear government, do more for us. Do more for us. Do more for us. The people are crying. This is a cry. I'm not justifying it. You have no right to take the laws into your own hands. But when things like this happen, like Nongo said, you don't just stop at the stage of arresting people. You go to the causative agents. What led to these actions? What brought about this? Zakibiam is host to the largest yam market in the world, and we should not joke with it. The whole of Sankara, not just Ukum, but Sankara as a whole, as a zone in Cleveland and Benue State at large, are known for farming. We are known as a food basket state, but Sankara is actually one of the nerve centers of that appellation that we do bear. Therefore, this must be taken very serious. The property is destroyed. If government has to repair and re-establish them, it's going to cost, it run into the hundreds of millions, if not billions. And this is why we keep talking about the cost of insecurity, not just on the well-being of the masses, but also on the economic well-being of the state itself. Okay, BRS office has been burnt. It's a poignant message. BRS has nothing to do with security, so to speak. But you can guess that the protesters are saying, upon all the huge tariffs collected for the trading activities in this area, you cannot provide security for us. It does appear that the insecurity challenge in Ukum local government is something that is too complex for us to begin to analyze on this program. And when you see actions like this, it looks like friendly fire targeted at sending a message, sort of like we have had enough. My appeal to all the stakeholders, relevant or otherwise, in this whole debacle is to understand that whatever actions are taken will have a consequence and a blowback on the community. The protesters, yes, you have gone to this level, But before these facilities are set up again, it might take years. So you are also losing. For whoever is behind whatever is making the promote peace and not violence, with whatever we support or do not support. But I'd like to wrap it up by saying one does not, and it is not our policy in Agate TV, to condone any acts of violence, even if you feel they are justified for whatever reason. We have the Nigerian police force, and thank God they are wading into the matter already.
Yes, looking at this, I quite very unfortunate saying that if you are protesting, this is extreme, going extreme. You should protest, say, make your voice known. Either go to the traditional, or move to the secretariat, and then put your plea.
Well,
let the chairman address.
Well,
and all of those.
but you know the history we are
Yes.
giving. You have, I mean, people just infiltrating, bad elements infiltrating and hijacking what may have started as a peaceful protest to become a violent one.
And sometimes, Nongo, those you are protesting against sponsor this
A
element,
counter group.
Yes, to make it look as if your protest had that intention.
Yes.
In the first
Yeah.
So when protests, be it peaceful, once it starts, there should be a proper security cover. It's a signal. It's because today is Okum, it can be anywhere, in any part of the state.
Very well. So, yeah, it's indeed a nice decision for government to ensure
Impose curfew there.
there, and so that everybody stay at home and let's monitor the environment. But of course, we pray that this doesn't repeat in any part of the state.
Amen.
Let's go to the Vanguard newspaper and let's see what it carries. That is our first paper after looking at the headlines on our website. Sorry we couldn't bring you the website as we promised. And let's go to Vanguard newspaper and the banner headline here: Health crisis, high cost of drugs to persist as local production flops. The writer says only 25% of drugs consumed in Nigeria produced locally. 70% drug importation puts more pressure on forex and importation, responsible for high cost of drugs. Pharmaceutical sector unique, deserves special policies, and delete import duties levy to ensure our survival. Deoshun and the FG should introduce reforms utilized in petroleum sector. That is the banner headline, and you have face off Oyo CP brokers peace between Sean and Chief Imam. And the other one you have just above the nameplate is Uniben student block Benin Lagos road over power outage. Another protest here again. Lamentation chaos as a flood grounds Lagos. And then another list story here says terrorists kidnap Kaduna George, kill son, demand 300 million ransom. And below the name, below, just look at the picture there. But I will talk about the flood in our next paper. But look at that, more or less like a boat environment. CBN warns banks against rejecting dirty, mutilated naira. Okay, so this is the big story on the Vanguard newspaper. We've looked at this before when they say there is shortage of drugs in respect to the cholera outbreak. Here, high cost of drugs persists as local production flops. Where do we go from here? Cheria.
Well, Mutsav, it will amaze you to discover that the installed capacity of manufacturing as far as the drug sector, as far as the health sector, the pharmaceutical sector is concerned, is enough to cover our drug needs in Nigeria. However, the problem of underutilization, capacity underutilization, you have a situation where, let's say, factories have 100,000 tons installed capacity to manufacture, and then they are only producing 25,000 tons per annum. So underutilization is a problem. Why is it happening? The cost of manufacturing in Nigeria in all sectors is very high, except for certain sectors that have enjoyed tariffs from government. So it's cheaper for these companies to come here, establish factories, and then import from China and package in Nigeria and claim that it is made in Nigeria. And that is why you have about 70% importation. Look at the issues. You have, over-the-counter drugs, you have generics, and you have branded patented drugs. What happens is a drug like, for instance, for the sake of conversation, Panadol is an over-the-counter drug. It is not a generic. It is a patented brand. So what happened? They would import the effluents for the manufacture of Panadol and just come and package it here and say made in Nigeria. Is it? No, it's not. The raw materials are not sourced here. Nothing of such is sought. We are the second largest drugs market in Africa besides South Africa. The sector itself is not a dull sector. It is growing in leaps and bounds, but unfortunately, it's cheaper to get generics from India and China, so people prefer to go that way. Government has banned a lot of drugs to bring down to help stimulate local production, but I think we need to go beyond that so that we can develop our own drug market and conserve foreign reserve.
There's a danger of importing these drugs into this country, even in respect of the fact that Nigeria pharmaceutical market boasts of over 200 manufacturers and packaging companies. Do you think the right thing to go is to the absolute banning of all the drugs into the country?
Well, Ben, the high cost of drugs is something that is not different from the biting economic hardship Nigeria is facing. And if drugs, the drugs are as essential commodities are also becoming out of the reach, then there's a serious concern. Even the importation, beyond the importation, because the high cost local manufacturers are not meeting the needs. The ones that are being imported, even the price is even higher, more than what an average Nigerian can afford. But the danger here, that if not carefully watched, is the proliferation of fake drugs, which people may go for unknowingly. So this calls to the regulatory agencies, NAFDAC, even the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, the Pharmaceutical Council, all the regulatory bodies to tighten up to see that we do not have infiltration of fake substandard drugs in the market just to fulfill all righteousness. Because if the drugs are a very essential product, not just in the health sector, but generally, people live, everyday life of some persons is dependent on drugs. So if you cannot afford drugs, then it calls to serious question. But again, the government, apart from ensuring that local manufacturing pharmaceutical companies are encouraged, it also behoves on them to give some incentives in terms of tax breaks and holidays. Remember, all this is as a result of the exit of certain multinational drug manufacturing companies because of certain economic realities which did not allow them to operate here. Because now that they have exited, we're importing their products. And if we import, it's costing the country higher, it's adding more pressure on our foreign exchange. And the health sector is suffering it in return either. Because in our hospitals, virtually, even in the pharmacies, in hospitals, in public hospitals, you go, sometimes you are rather given a prescription that certain drugs are not available in the pharmacy. In public hospitals, you access them in private ones. So if drugs are getting, the price of it is getting out of reach, and the health sector is not, we are treating this with kid gloves, then it's something worrying that needs to be addressed.
Let's look at this in another way. It looks as if this health sector is a big challenge. The Japa syndrome started from the health sector, more or less. Doctors are going. They are still Japaing. That is one angle.
Yes.
So the brain drain.
Yes.
Moving out of that place. So number one, there is shortage of doctors.
Manpower. Doctors and even
nurses.
Nurses to a greater extent.
That is one leg of the problem.
Yes.
The second leg is now drugs. So, is there any third leg? I wouldn't know whether there's a third leg. But a big problem is
Yeah, the third leg is the funds to even go to hospital.
the funds. Now, where lies the hope of the common man? In our program here, we call them the masses. Where lies the hope of the masses in the midst of this big problem? If you go to the hospital, there are no doctors to attend to you sufficiently. If you now come out, perhaps they prescribe drugs for you. You come out again, you can't even buy them.
Get them.
So where do
The
we
money
go?
is not
What's
even
the
there.
alternative?
Well, maybe we should start investigating our old methods of herbal medicine. Developed as China is, they still promote alternative medicine practice in China up till date. Now, we cannot say tradomedical practice is completely useless because, by the way, only 30% of Nigerians have access to genuine drugs, meaning 70% of what we consume is fake. This is the reason why you take malaria drugs, and a few days later you're still way down with the same symptoms, and you start wondering if the malaria has metamorphosed into something else. No.
The malaria is stronger than the drug.
Yes, you know, and for instance, there are certain brands of pain relievers you take and nothing seems to happen. But when you take a particular brand and you go to a trusted pharmacy and you buy it, instantly you feel the relief. So it's time for us to, on a more serious note, start looking at alternative medical options. Start, creating a link between the practitioners of this tradomedical sector and universities, research institutes. Make their findings more relevant and mainstream them. These are the areas government needs to make a lot of efforts in. Meanwhile, if you have removed subsidy on petrol, health is wealth. If the population is not healthy, the economy cannot thrive, even if you raise on drugs or tariffs on specific essential drugs so that Nigerians can afford it. And then give the manufacturers certain benefits. This also ties into Dangote refinery because some of the byproducts of crude refining are used in the manufacture of drugs. So it's an ecosystem. Government just on the whole, government needs to pay a lot of attention. Like my friend Nongo said, we can't treat this with kid gloves.
Now, the big question again to ask here, did you sense any act of saboteur in this?
Sabotage? Well, you can't really say it's an act of sabotage. If it is sabotage that has been on ground for decades. Because remember, before now, Dora Akinyele almost lost her life fighting against the fake drug cabal in this country. And we thought she was joking, but now we are seeing it. In fact, some of the reasons why the global brands have left is because people are copying their brands and selling the fake variants, and the fake variants have taken over the market. For instance, if you have a drug XYZ, begin to attach certain levels of stereotyping to it.
If you mention it on your own.
And I dare not. So someone in a particular town decides to, manufacture 500,000 cartons of the same thing. And maybe it is his brothers that own a lot of patent medicine stores, and he distributes to them at a cheaper rate. And they collect and buy. Your projections have been affected, and your profit margins are therefore going to be hampered. Okay. And at a time of economic crunch, cheaper fake options begin to be embraced.
Okay, we're due for a break. We'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue with the reviews of headlines. Don't go away.
Fidelity 100%.
Faithfulness cannot be tested where your partner is.
With communication, I know that you won't cheat on me.
Some people they talk well, and still they cheat. So.
If you're not committed to someone, then you don't have to be faithful to that person.
When you're talking about fidelity and trust, you could be faithful, you could be loyal. And if your partner feels or perceives you are not, does that mean you are not?
Appearance could make someone not be faithful. Maybe you're a guy or I'm a lady that I just love guys being very neat, and then you're not very neat. Means seeing someone that is neat will just attract me. And then it will make me not to be faithful. And then sometimes you have a partner that don't really look at the needs, your needs. I'm talking about the financial aspect. Doesn't look at your needs, and then there's someone that sees needs.
The lady in you is screaming, needs. Okay, fine.
That sees reasons that okay, let me just speak. You know, a woman generally, it's someone that loves to be loved.
Exactly.
So by the time you gift a woman and you fail to understand that this woman loves flowers, she loves this, before you know, she's not going to be faithful. There's a conversation you're having with someone on the chat. And then if you don't feel comfortable for your committed partner to see, you're emotionally cheating. That conversation is giving you peace. The minute you cannot talk to your committed partner about an issue, but you feel comfortable to talk to this stranger about this issue, you are cheating on your partner. Because if you're having, remember we mentioned trust, loyalty, being faithful.
Yeah.
So if trust is broken, if there's no trust broken, I want to run home to you to gist you about everything.
Okay, you're welcome back to the program, iGate TV. This is newspaper headlines review. We just looked at the Vanguard and iGate's website as well. But let's go to Punch, which is our next paper. And Punch carries this banner headline, 10-hour rainfall, businesses grounded, house collapses as flood overtakes Lagos. I love this headline. So Lagos now is in the hands of flood, according to Punch. 7 rescued from collapsed building, flood-induced traffic disrupt movement in Lagos and Ogun State. Above the nameplate, a National Assembly scores FG low on budget implementation. Okay, and custom intercepts 1.6 billion military wares rifles from Turkey. This happened in Lagos. It's a Lagos port. Labour private sector protests as disco hike tariff again. This one has been done secretly, but we understand that. Okay. Southeast leaders step up, moves to free Nnamdi Kanu, and father-son remanded for allegedly stealing 75 million from Lagos firm. Senate probes $4 billion refineries repairs, hazardous diesel import. Okay, these are the headlines on the story. Quite interesting here. But the big story, or the banner story here, the banner headline says, 10-hour rainfall, business grounded, houses collapse. Look at the pictures. Lagos is
Shoki, the low lying area. Lagos itself is averagely a below sea level town, and there are many portions of Lagos that were sandfield, and by that I mean they were marshy land. So a little water, the water below the surface is very close to the surface. A little rainfall and everywhere is flooded. This speaks to the need for our governments to pay attention to weather patterns and then redesign some of these major cities to take care of this. We have the similar challenge in Makurdi, but Lagos is more advanced because the water bodies surrounding Lagos, you know, the lagoon, and what. In fact, the name Lagos is as a result of the fact that it is a town surrounded by a lagoon. So one of our very own, architect Simon Gusa, was the head of the city renewal. There was a chief resilience officer of Lagos a while ago. And some of the things I'm aware he did to help redesign the town, for some reason they were not taken seriously, and he left. He's back in Australia doing his thing. But then you see the consequences. Just 10 hours of rain, and a lot of areas in Lagos. Imagine, Nguta, the woman who sells roasted corn by the roadside. You know, those type of people earn their money. If they don't go out, they don't earn their money. They barely even have savings. And this kind of person now, for maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 days, does not have what to eat. They will brave the odds and go out into the flood trying to, one way or the other, get something to eat. And those are the ones that are the victims. So when we speak for the masses. The government at all levels must do their very best to ensure that these areas are well taken care of. It still speaks to the issue of local government autonomy. If the local councils in Lagos are autonomous, some local governments in Lagos generate more money than some states in the north on a monthly basis. They can take care of some of these things in a more effective way.
The Lagos state, the federal government says it's constructing the Lagos-Calabar coastal road. Could have been better off to try to address the issue of Lagos, because it's year in, year out.
It's quite shocking, the situation of flood, not just in Lagos but in Nigeria in general. But if only 10 hours of rainfall has caused this kind of devastation, based on the images of the pictures that are here on the front cover of Punch, then you can imagine if the rain were to go beyond 10 hours, maybe. But sometimes I keep wondering, because God has so protected this country such that a place like Lagos, the water bodies surrounding it. If it were in other parts of the world, maybe sometimes you hear that the entire Lagos is washed away.
Yes.
The hurricane and the tsunami that we hear of in Europe, in Middle East, and other parts of the world don't seem to occur here. So, which is to say, the challenge of flood, especially in the urban centers, based on the images I've seen here, Oshodi, Agege, Ikeja are all flooded. But at least these are somehow major towns, Ikeja, Agege, even though sometimes urban planning, proper town planning, has to also address this in a way. But, you know, Lagos has grown into a kind of city that the challenge of managing proper urban town planning is also there, and even the slums that are lying there is seriously a challenge. But the government need to address this challenge by looking in the direction of the subject of getting our rivers dredged has been there for quite a long time. The two major rivers we have in the country, rivers Niger and Benue, based on information in public domain, is that the river basins are becoming shallow and lying the water level that seem to be accumulating there. And the water that empties from all these rivers empties down to Lagos. So we need to really address the challenge of this perennial flooding. Let it not be like an annual festival that year in, year out, we are grappling with the same challenge over and over. Proper town planning, drainage, water tunnels that are constructed to be deep enough to serve as canals that will properly channel this water to places that they will empty into the ocean or the lagoons that are surrounding Lagos, will be a proper management measure for us to take. Otherwise, one day we shouldn't wake up and hear that the entire Lagos is washed away by the challenge of water.
Okay, the case again is, let's look at this. We have a very big issue on our hands already in the health sector, which is the cholera.
Yes.
And now peak water, it's in Lagos. And Lagos is already
one of the peak states experiencing the high level of cholera cases and being flooded again will exacerbate the challenge.
Again,
because the environment will be tampered with, water bodies that are potable ones may be contaminated, and it will also make the situation worse.
My concern is what was the discussion of the 4th Lagos Water Conference, Recently it's held, and I know the Minister of Water Resources was also there. I know the governor was promising clean water, making water clean to poor Lagosians. But this aspect is one thing that he needs to look at, very, very important. How some part of the state will definitely need to be restructured
Yes.
to create that, and then just compensate people. And maybe some people will not like to go, but we need to create some bigger water channels to live. But the one in around Ishaya Bakud Road here, in Benue here, in Makudi, when we went out, I think that was not even up to 4 hours of rain or 3 hours. The entire water channel was overflowing. So you see, if you have this kind of 10 hours rainfall, it means that water channel will be buried. And then we'll be looking for where to go. So I was expecting that the Lagos Water Conference we treat that, but it didn't. So, but that is okay. But let's look at another picture of the story. Some pictures. The Senate probing $4 billion refineries repairs, hazardous diesel import. We talked about refineries repairs. This this for you. Nathaniel,
You see,
$4 billion. Is that $4 billion?
$4 billion.
Yes,
So it tells you that this thing is not just about lip service. Monies have actually been appropriated for it. Year in, year out, administration upon administration, we hear them talk about the repairing our refineries to get them to function. And if $4 billion $4 billion appropriated for it is not properly accounted for to require Senate to probe, then it speaks to the insincerity of the government of this country in addressing our challenges and how our public funds are utilized. And how about the diesel import? All this, the regulation of the petroleum sector, like I have said, is meant to just enrich well-to-do Nigerians who have invested in this area. We need to be more transparent and accountable in managing this situation. The resources of this country as appropriated for whatever reasons to serve that purpose. But if over the years the government has been talking about getting the refineries to function, monies are appropriated for it year in, year out, administration of administration, no result is seen. The Senate should not stop at just, and it shouldn't stop at we having it on the pages of paper that the Senate is probing. But in the end, where do we get to see the outcome of the probe?
And I understand.
Are people ever arrested and they made to account for where these monies went to? So it shouldn't stop at the probe.
I understand that people are also working in those refineries that are not working.
Yeah. Salaries have been collected all this while. I have a couple of friends.
So what are they doing?
Well, if you leave a house completely empty, it will be taken over by rodents and what have you. But actually, the people are working, and the refineries are, carrying out what one can refer to as skeletal services. It's not the fault of the workers. $4 billion, Ngutav, that translates to almost 6 trillion naira in today's exchange rate, and that is a whole lot of money that if it's available right now, we can use to do a lot of good for Nigerians. And over the years, these monies have just been pilfered and, no change. Every year, the refineries will come up in December, and when we get to December, it's next December. They keep shifting the goalposts. The Senate, I hope this is not just a paper tiger approach to the matter. If they approach it with sincerity of purpose, maybe for the very first time we'll sanitize the petroleum sector and make life easier for Nigerians. Imagine if these refineries were working. Would there be need for subsidy to be removed the way it was removed? No. These refineries also need to work so that we will not put all our eggs in the Dangote refinery basket. And if they are all working together with Dangote refinery, Nigeria will become a net exporter of refined petroleum products, any more foreign exchange, increasing what goes into the basket from which states draw. There will be no excuse for state governments to say we can't pay minimum wage anymore. It will be more for all Nigerians.
Okay, let's go to the Guardian newspaper. That is where our attention will be turned to now. We don't have just a few minutes left with us here. The Guardian newspaper, and talking about circular economy. Worries as e-waste import rises. More Nigerians resort to used items. And minimum wage, NLC tariff for band A by 1.3% amid calls for reduction. I don't know whether both of you are on band A or band B, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm envying band A at all.
Someone said remove the band.
Yes.
Just give it the guitar.
Anyway, or
Because
maybe
it
you
is-
can put a band there and remove the A's and B's. Just make it band only. Don't categorize it.
Because the band A keeps rising. These are privileged human beings. All right, Senate rejects motion to probe security funds used for yacht and others. And EFCC accuses public servants of diverting MDAs on spent allocations. Many other stories there to pick. I didn't discuss Kanu's release, Obasanjo says. And again, custom intercepts 1 point. I think we took that earlier. But let's look at this. Worries as e-waste import rises. More Nigerians resort to used items. Of course, that is what you have there. In the clothes, call them okrika, okay? And then in the computer or in the ICT sector, many used electronics are coming in the market, and that is what many people are going for. So, and this is sometimes they come, we don't use them for long, and they pack up, and they become wastes, and they're affecting the country. So there is a concern on this. But do we think we can manage this?
We even have a very big market in Makudi here for used items. And you'll agree with me, Nguta, that the chief people have a proverb, Kigawe Mankpo, Gudan Kpo, meaning at all, make we manage, this yam that you cut and dry. At all, na wish, sort of, in worry parlance. So, half bread is better than chin-chin, as some may say. We have become attached to gadgets. And some of these gadgets we cannot do without. Now that we are in a recession, or let me say, in an economic tumble dryer, people are trying to find options because they have become used to it. It's just like asking a 5-year-old kid not to watch TV anymore because you can't afford to buy it. At the end of the day, if that expensive flat screen you bought packs up, you go to places like Madipo and look for the alternative, and there you get the used ones at sometimes half the price or maybe 25 to 30% the price. When it comes to clothes, a lot of people are going for what they call okrika. You go to Wadata on Saturdays, you see a lot of options. Some are buying designers from there. Even when it comes to cars, in Nigeria, the only thing we are not buying second-hand is human beings. But even at that, some people are saying it's better they marry a woman who has been divorced because she will know how to treat a man better. So even in aspects that we don't get second-hand, now we are subscribing to it. So Nguta, you don't blame the masses for taking the option of getting. However, this concern is legitimate because some of these devices have been used in other places and you don't even know under what condition they are coming to you. Maybe the person who used it over there had a particular medical condition and may have, touched some of the surfaces you don't know. They bring these devices to you. You may not even take time to clean them. You start using. I mean, people are even buying used spoons and forks. You don't know where they went to. You don't know what they were used for. But we are doing it, pots, pans, and everything. So it's just an indication of what the economy is. If Nigerians can afford these things, we know it's not that we are. It's not that we are genetically attached to fairly used things. It's a question of affordability.
Nongo, you see this, that there's a gap in the electronic or one would say in the manufacturing industry of this kind of things. We have a particular gap. This concern tells that we have not done enough in this sector, or we have not done even anything. I don't know where they manufacture or they make fans in this country. I don't know where we have we started making manufacturing phones or making phones in this country. Have we started making producing laptops? How about the mouse, keyboard, and the rest?
And maybe as only assembling them, but generally, goods have it speaks to the situation with regards to getting our local technological firms in a way to get to key into this. Our economy largely is import dependent, and the subject matter of e-waste, also particularly with regards to electronic waste, it's a serious concern because across the world, the economies of the world that are looking in this direction are evolving ways of recycling, not necessarily having to push such used products in other places, but get to recycle them to produce other products out of them. So in terms of our local manufacturing, like you asked whether we have started manufacturing phones, maybe we can only at best at the moment assemble, but we should try to also key in recycling, get firms that are interested in investing in this to maybe get, when we buy these fairly used items, when we import them, use them in the country, and by the time their lifespan is done, we should get to recycle them. Like, for instance, here in Benue State, I'm aware the Center for Innovation in Procurement and Social Standards at the Joseph Sawo Antaka University, they have a program on e-waste management. It's a World Bank center. So it would have been good that we evolve research in such a way that, because this electronic waste, sometimes it causes hazard to our environment. Just imagine maybe a pan of a certain electronic gadget being just thrown away. It will take years for such a stuff to decay even in the soil. So it causes an environmental hazard, number one. And then the other implications which Chavia also pointed out. So we should try to evolve ways, or maybe there should be a deliberate policy. I remember the government, there was a move by the government to ban the importation of fairly used certain items like clothes, given the health implications they may have. The government
the
made
ban is still there.
Yeah,
it's still there.
So if the ban is there, then it needs,
ban is on paper.
it needs to be reinforced, because our country cannot be so close.
But
What
the question is,
Handkerchiefs.
do you have the capacity to when you stop this and produce?
That is
if
where
we encourage our local investors, manufacturing,
that is
people
where
we
the
key
problem
into.
lies, because our textile sector is virtually comatose. But Nigeria used to have a virile textile sector. I mean, we had very profitable cotton production in places like Katsina, Jigawa, and the rest of them. What has happened? We even had companies that were named after cotton. You had companies like West African Cotton Chemical Company, WACOT. Sorry that I'm mentioning their name, it's not for advert purposes. But these are companies that came into Nigeria in the 60s and were selling chemicals specifically to a particular crop. They are still maintaining that name, but they no longer service that sector because that industry is virtually comatose, dead, for all I know. And government, like you asked, it's a pertinent question. You don't just ban things, you give the people a substitute. Or else, the people will patronize a sector that will not pay you taxes, because how many of these used clothes come through the normal? We know how it comes into Nigeria. We know it's not a secret. And even if you fight it, the people will still find a way to get it. So the alternatives: stimulate the textile sector, the entire manufacturing sector. We need to declare a state of emergency to promote manufacturing in Nigeria.
Yes, that is one question I have always had the problem with. When they say declare state of emergency, what happens after the declaration?
And there have been so many of these emergencies that have been declared, but nothing seems to be happening yet.
It's not about...
Well, I feel like singing. If you ask me,
because
now who I go
because, a lot of it.
Yes.
Declare state of emergency.
Or go back to the drawing board.
Go back, which the board has even finished.
There's nothing to draw anymore.
There's nothing to draw again. But that is a question. Now, there is a particular place, I think they are in Aba. Somebody told me that if you go there, they can sew your suit as you stand. Those guys can sew the suit and finish.
Yes, yes.
But that's the beauty of it, which is what I was telling you, that if with the right investment, with the right encouragement, the right economic policies, our local manufacturers are capable of keying into this. And if you also have an inclination to patronizing our own brands, then we'll be in for good
You remember,
times.
Nongo, when the present National House of Assembly was to buy vehicles?
Yes.
I was surprised they did not patronize the likes of Nord in Lagos
Yes.
and IVM, Innocent Vehicle Manufacturing. They were giving excuses why they are buying foreign brands like Toyota.
Yes.
For crying out loud, you will not see the German Chancellor drive any other brand other than German. The Chinese will not drive a BMW or a Mercedes, no matter how good it is. And the Americans will never go for an Italian car for their president, except something made in America. And in the UK, the same thing. The PM drives a Range Rover, for crying out loud. We have at least, even if they are not manufacturers, they are assembling in Nigeria. Imagine the optics and the advert value if the Senate president drives an IVM vehicle and the speaker drives a Nord vehicle. And
We can only consume the things we produce, yeah? The things we don't have, we have to look somewhere else.
Yes.
So how do we consume wholly what we produce? We need to invest in this particular, the sectors that are lacking, in the textiles industry. We have to go into the ICT environment to invest in it as well, and see that, yes, they can produce something. You're talking about whether they assemble, we do the assembling of phones. I doubt whether we do that. Maybe computers, that could be just buy parts and then put, but not laptops, of course. Laptops, at most we do, it's repairs. So that is one thing we need to, the country needs to do, to invest and heavily in these industries or these sectors. In that way, we can do a lot of things. Because looking at like football now, or sports, we produce everything, isn't it? Except the coaches. The coaches, we don't have the. we had a new coach, a Nigerian coach, but I don't know what happened. You all know the story. So we wanted to have a complete brand, Nigeria brand, but it didn't work. Well, at least the importation of, let's say importation, or will I be correct? The importation of just the coach is less and even. If we had all the 12 of them, so the players. So let's try, let the country go into this. Let the country invest in, for me, I would say let the government invest in Aba, and let's see what they can produce. Shoes have been produced there.
Even beyond Aba, here in Makurdi, the other day I wore a shoe made in Makurdi.
Yes,
I showed you.
Yes, of course.
I wish I was gymnastic enough to raise my leg. The shoes I'm wearing are made in Boko.
Yes, of course, there is the product of Agate. It's also
Absolutely.
Agate Productions.
One of the local companies around here that floats. If you see their brand,
And the Nigerian army
Agate
can patronize
Productions,
them.
You see the kind of shoes, belts, shirts, the quality.
Of course.
So it's just about the right investment. So just imagine more than one person, two or three more of Agate. Two more business people reasoning in the direction of Agate production. Just imagine what
Within
we
the
have.
town. Yes.
Yeah, that is important. For those of you who are watching, in case you need to buy branded shoes, you can also go to Agate. They have one of the best.
Opposite commissioner's quarters.
Yes, I'm advertising. But yeah, that's just for promoting the local things, brands. If you go to Otukpo,
After all, we spoke about Boko, yeah.
Otukpo Boko, Makurdi, there are guys who are producing these things, and the one I'm putting onto, it's locally produced. The shoes and all of the things. So nothing is we can do. So let's consume.
The capacity is there.
What we produce. Your final take in 20 seconds each. Let me start with you now.
Anyway, we still have a long way to go in this country. The issues I imagine again and again, the issue of security, especially like the situation in Ukum, which we started with. We hope the government should be decisive, get our economy working, and the delays about a new minimum wage that becoming too long, I'm afraid. So government should say something about this. Let's have some template to work with.
NAS has an interest in minimum wage.
Yes, the present economic downturn is an opportunity. Why do I call it an opportunity? It's now an opportunity for government to jump and lead by example and say we must patronize made in Nigeria. Let's start from the top, and all of us, if we believe in ourselves, will no longer be so reliant on imported goods.
When you say let's start from the top, I thought you wanted to stop there, top to bottom. The last time we heard that phrase in this country, somebody actually took us from top to bottom. That's by the way.
Anyway, that is it. Nigeria, it's working, and Nigeria will work better if the right steps are taken. Let's invest in those sectors, and the capacity is there. The young men are there, so that we don't have people japping to other countries. After all, when they japa, they become the best of the things they are going out to do. So we wish you the very best in watching this program, and we hope that we pray for the best of this country, best for our state as well. I'm Benjamin Gutava. I wish you the very best of the day. I will see you next time. Bye-bye for now.